Well, that helps me to dare to ask Jenny. Because she's promised me that she's going to really provoke us, and I know that she will. But you and I have been artistic directors, amongst other things, for nearly 20 years. And what do you think has changed, if anything, in terms of this debate?
I'm not a horrible person, you know.
I know.
My mind's just whirring with all the many things I want to say. But last night I came to see The Merchant of Venice, and I just want to jump up and go, yes, because Nadia is in it. Nadia is an actor who has one arm and one half arm. She's an extraordinary actress, but she was told many years ago by one of the establishments, darling, with that arm, you will never come on our stage. You will offend the audience. So how dare that director undermine the sensibility of an audience?
Yes.
So that's one of my things.
Yes.
I was doing this is where I'm being a bit naughty. I was doing some work on Macbeth with the RSC about 5 years ago, and somebody from here said, you know what, Jenny, I think we need to get a proper director in to work on this. Sorry, that still sticks to me because I feel mortified that I'm not perceived as a proper director. Yeah. I've got a litany of things that people have said to Grey Eye and Grey Eye actors. I don't know whether you know Grey Eye, but I love my job. I absolutely love it because I get to work with deaf and disabled artists that no one else will want to work with. And years ago, Kerry and I did Reasons to be Cheerful, big rock, Ian Joy, who was one of Grey Eye's patrons. And we had the most glorious motley crew on that stage, didn't we? And we won the TMA, Theatre Management Association Award for Diversity. Yes. And I can remember just jumping up, running up to the stage, didn't realise there was some steps up, got Annika Rice to haul me up, so my bottom was there for everyone to see, hauling me up on the stage. Got on the stage and went, wow. And it was a sea of white faces, mainly men, and the irony is that our frontman, John Kelly, who was a wheelchair user, he was supposed to come, but the venue was not accessible, and John would not have been able to get on that stage. The irony was not. So I said that. I said, thank you for this award. I get to work with all the people that you won't work with. Why won't you? But lucky me. So every cloud has a silver lining, and I get them. In all reality, I'm bored. I'm bored with this debate. The only shows that I go to see that are fully accessible, fully diverse, are the ones that I do. And actually the ones that we in the disability arts community, we really support real diversity and accessibility. Someone said to me when I was working with Dundee Rep, one of their rep actors said, when I was exploring the possibility of the character of the mother being deaf, and I had a deaf actor working with us, and I went, oh my God, Ali, this was R&D. And I said, the fact that the mum's deaf, that gives another whole texture to the fact that she doesn't want her son to get married. It's about him marrying her, but it's about her need for her. He signs, he supports her. It's something else. It's rich, it's glorious. And the guy who was playing the son said, he said, for fuck's sake, Lorca did not write Blood Wedding for people like you to be in it. I had to leave the room because I bawled it. Went to the director, who was then James Billing at that time. I said, James, we have got to do Blood Wedding. We have got to do it. And so we did it. If someone says no to me, so we did it. And I had the most gloriously diverse cast. The mother was deaf, played by a profoundly deaf woman called EJ. And so the first words anybody hears on stage is this profoundly deaf voice. So for a hearing sighted audience and blind audience, you really have to tune in to EJ's voice. But you get there. So it was a mixture of sign. The son repeated some of what the mother said. We think about accessibility. And when I think about my first job, my first baby as a baby director, 8 months pregnant, went for my interview, terrified, never thought that I would ever be a director. It wasn't on my radar. But having a baby, I thought there's no way I could be a jobbing actor. Directing might be another way in. And so it's Interplay Theatre Company based in Leeds, and all of their work is accessible for a real multitude of people with profound mental and health and learning disabilities. And they're doing The Tempest. And I said, well, I think that's brilliant because, you know, Shakespeare didn't say whether Juliet or Miranda was or was not a wheelchair user. And I've got the T-shirt with that exact quote on it. And I think that's what got me the job. Because I really pushed them to have a really diverse cast because the audience was so diverse. And Shakespeare didn't say that, really. And I'm, at the moment, Jan and I go back to Bangladesh very soon. I've just cast Romeo and Juliet with an all-disabled cast. And in Bangladesh, the prestige or the status of disabled people are they're in the gutter. But no, the National Theatre, I'm doing a play for the National Theatre in Bangladesh. Our own national don't want to own me. But anyway, so I've got the most incredible cast. And the young man playing Mercutio said, Jenny, but I can't do Shakespeare. I said, yes, you can. Shakespeare is for everybody, really, really is. And you can be my Mercutio. He said, but I can't fight because he's got the most extraordinary hand, massive hands, with a split here, so that he can actually support his body, and his legs, tiny legs, are folded behind his body. So he walks everywhere in his hands. He's a bugger. He is lethal. So he'll be standing here, and he will come with his legs, wrap his legs around you, pull you over. I mean, that's how Mercutio will fight. Of course it will be. And my Romeo, beautiful young man, he has one leg it's almost like an elbow, and he has a bamboo stick which he threads through, and that becomes his leg. So he stands like that, and he's got the most extraordinary gait. My Juliet, profoundly deaf BSL user. My nurse, wheelchair user. I mean, how diverse can you get? But they are... what I'm having to do with them is instill that confidence that Shakespeare is for them to do. They're just like, they're bewildered by the whole thing. It's like, no. So I just think I'm lucky because the work I do is constantly and always will be diverse because I don't know any different. But when I go to the theatre, I'm bored. I'm so bored. And there's so little I can actually go to see. I have to make sure that I'm not washing my hair on that day that it's interpreted. And there's very few signed performances. And I know there's a lot of deaf people that like captioning, but I watch caption on the telly. I don't want to come to the theatre to watch captions. It's flat. Yeah. I love these two. They are my life. And when they're on stage, in the mix of everything, how exciting is it? And people think that having sign language on stage is distracting. I don't know whether you're familiar with Sarah Kane. You know, every other word is the C word, really, with her, or the F word. She's a woman of expletives, beautifully chosen, obviously. But when I went to see... I think it might have been Phaedra's Love. Yes. Phaedra,
at the gate. Yeah.
No, it was at the Arcola, which is a very, very wide stage. They put the interpreter way over there. So there's about 12 deaf people all sitting, watching the interpreter and all the actions happening over there. But every time there was a swear word or the C word, the entire hearing audience would look to see what the sign for that was. It's that, by the way, but anyway, moving on. And so I said to the director, why did you place her so far away? He said, well, it's distracting. I said, no, it's really distracting to have a whole hearing audience go... But if she's been in the mix, you as hearing audience, sight audience, you can filter her in and out. But for me, it means I can see the actors. I don't pay 35 quid to watch someone standing on a corner. You know, so... But it's... And I remember Erica, way back, when you did the little violin, coming to me in tears saying, Jen, I've got a deaf actor, Neil Fox, and she said, but the other director of the theatre wants me to dim the lights because he finds the signing is in the way. And my deaf audience can't see my lovely, lovely deaf actor signing. Can you remember that?
I do.
So we have moved a long way, but there's still a lot to be done. And we've talked about training, we've talked about fear, but we really need to look at our society. Our society is so closely diverse, and that has to be on stage. It has to be. So I've been saying the same thing for 25 years. And I've got one more conference on the same subject at the National Theatre in 2 weeks' time, and after that I am not going to sit on any more panels. I think we have to do that rather than sit in gab.
I agree, of course. Agree. On almost every front. I want to ask you a bit about the audience, because that's true, that did happen, and created a lifelong passion for me of integrating sign language. And I know you're right. About hearing audiences immediately relaxing about interpretation and interpreter when they're in the action. Everyone is just watching one show together. And I'm very pleased to tell you, I think you know, that we are at last starting to integrate sign language here. And we did it with the Christmas Truce, my show on the main stage this Christmas. And we haven't announced this yet, but I am going to do it with Midsummer Night's Dream next year. So the first time we'll have integrated an interpreter actor into a Shakespeare. So things are moving in the right direction. However, I think one of the reasons that things have gone backwards in some places, haven't consistently gone forwards, is that we are so keen in the theatre. I don't know if this is the same, like, by the sound of it, Susan, it is the same in the visual art world, to worry about who's going to come and how much they're going to spend, that becomes our reason for everything. And so we found in the theatre that lots more people came to see captioned performance. Why? Partly because in a theatre like ours, with complex 400-year-old language, quite a lot of people who are not deaf or hard of hearing find it useful to have the captions. We made a mistake over several years to think that that was serving people who want to or need to have the production in BSL as well as in English. But that tells me that we do this all the time. We do it around all sorts of diversity, which is to say, and Kerry's referred to it, if we can't get an audience for it, we can't do it. So how do we change that sense of actually our whole audience would be interested in a more diverse range of artists on our stage?
I think for me, it's about that, because it's been a blood wedding. We've got a deaf voice, we've got signing, we've got captions, we've got live on stage audio description. And if there's an all hearing, all sight audience, all those things are still there. It's what I do. So to make sure that every single performance, every single night is accessible. So if someone thinks, oh, actually, I want to go to theatre tonight, it's there for them.
Yes.
I really have to plan. Looking at your brooch, thinking, right,
Yes.
183 performances, 24 are accessible for deaf audiences in 6 months. I really have to work out. I've got very little choice of when I go to the theatre. So I think that's what I like to do. But it's the aesthetics of all of that. It's interesting.
Yes.
It's really interesting. And, you know, for sighted audience hearing audio description, they go, well, I can see. Why am I being told this? Oh, actually, I can see, but I'm seeing something different. So it's about, it's not just access, it's art-led access. And that's what I love. And I'm not saying that all of our productions are 100% uber accessible, but we try. And I love it, it's that exploration. And I was just thinking last night, I desperately wanted to have Miley Cyrus on the ball. Sorry, the pendulum.
There's a big pendulum in Merchant at Venice.
But thinking, and then I said, I put the interpreter on that.
Yes.
But, you know, there's a lot. Jen's an actress and an interpreter. So why is she? There's 3 or 4, there's loads of them. You know, that they could be a character, speaking character, and then signing. So you can mix and pick. There's so much to do. And I think when you're working with BSL, with actors, you know, some actors will say, oh, what's your character feeling? Oh, my character's feeling a bit sad. Well, that's not enough. Is that heartbroken? Is it just flippant? What is it? Because how that gets translated, is it sad or is it... There's so many different variations. So when the interpreter, we're working on what is the meaning of that. we get the right translation in BSL, but that actor really delves in hard to find out what it is they mean. So nothing gets wasted.
Yes.
It's not an add-on, it's crucial to everything. Just sorry, I'm
I agree.
I think
It's
also
marvellous.
on that note, you know, the thing about visual art is that it's not all, you know, that it is difficult that audiences, it's so box office led
Yes.
as well, and it all has to be to get new audiences, to get audiences in, to get numbers in, to, you know, click the clicker. It's that, then you get, it's like £1 per click, you know, it's kind of, and I think that I can understand that. Obviously things have got to be funded, but it's not, art isn't necessarily about just being populist or about, you know, there are many other things to say.
Yes.
And I think this thing should be funded for other reasons, and you know,
Yes.
there should be a whole other agenda going on that isn't just this box office led thing, because that is really distorting things at the moment, I
Yes.
think, and quite problematic. And some of the, you know, a lot of art isn't just to please people or make them feel happy, or to, you know, it's to ask questions and to explore and to be
Yes.
challenging and to be difficult. So, you know, just the fact that it's popular is
course.
you know, it's frustrating, I think. That.
I want to come back to Kerry on this, because it seems like we're getting a sort of picture of box office on the one hand, funding on another, although a lot of our funders would say the more diverse the better, but actually when faced with how we define a hit or a success, it's not always the same as what they're suggesting we might do to increase diversity. Do you find yourself boxed in by those issues?
Yeah, I think it's complicated and slightly sad, because I think we're going to go into much tougher times than where we are at the moment, which is kind of slightly the obvious thing to say. But I suppose, and if you, there is going to be less money for culture and the arts. We know that. There's another there'll be another budget in July. For whatever reason, we're going to get hammered by government, and also on a local level, local authorities, the arts funding is going to disappear, and all the other bits that help support the artist or the company or the emerging group is going to be really hard. So there'll be less room to take risks. So we're going to end up in a model where we're going to be in the performing arts, which will be far more American-based, where it'll be down to subscribers, individual patrons, to support the work. So you're absolutely right. But I think art in the sense of exploring who we are as a humanity, is going to be far more on the fringes, and we're actually going to be looking to other people to be doing that around the world, because we're going to turn this to the American model. I fear.
So that is a dreadful vision of, but might very well be right, that we're destroying different bits of funding here, there and everywhere. A question that arises for me, for everyone on the panel, is how do we speak truth to those people who are really making those decisions? So Jenny says she doesn't want to be on another panel like this. I know exactly what she means. You know, we're having an interesting conversation. We're already interested in this subject, and yet we don't see enough change. And I spent a lot of time in Newcastle before I came to the RSC. The way that funding collapse is affecting the regions of the United Kingdom is outside of London and some very fortunate bits of the southeast, like Warwickshire, is even greater, even worse. So the diversity of voices, even from around this country, is narrowing. And I feel very strongly that we ought to find a way to be saying, actually, we're not just going to challenge the government on the question of arts funding, but on all sorts of questions around the makeup of our country and how we think and value our country. And I think we've stopped doing that. I mean, all of us, perhaps with the exception of Amerah, have had fairly direct connections with government and have to do our jobs. And I wonder, I don't know if that's true, Susan, but I mean, thinking about an institution like Tate, for instance, and the RSC, you know, having those direct connections, are we in danger of endorsing what Susan sort of shows us in those images of a different kind of empire building and a different kind of male, stale, pale governance of our country by only arguing about the funding?
I'm an optimist. I am an optimist. I really am. And I'm optimistic on two levels. One, I'm kind of, we have a strap which is a People's Theatre, and it wasn't mine, it was Joan Littlewood's back in the day, you know, the British People's Theatre. And I think there's something that's happening now which has never happened before, is that we're disseminating information in a far more easier, quicker way. So there are a number of reviewers and bloggers coming online who have an independent voice, have a fresh opinion on outlook on life, and as their platforms mature, there'll be a credible alternative to the establishment in that sense. And also the other thing that I'm desperate that we do is, with all due respect to the RSC and others, big doesn't mean best.
Yeah.
And we spent a long time talking about the bigger you are, the better you are. And actually we are getting more sophisticated and actually talking about quality and best and artistic excellence being a whole different kind of way of doing things. As audiences, we don't just want to watch anymore, we want to kind of engage and be part of an experience. That's really clear, and that's why there's a whole lot of research done about how, as audiences, we want to be part of the art, either co-creation or we want to be part of an event. So usually that means it's a much smaller event. So playing to 2,000 people in these kind of not these ones, but I mean the auditorium necessarily are quite old-fashioned in terms of how audiences want to engage with the work. So all that makes you feel we're going to democratise things a bit more, and there'll be more varied conversations and varied possibilities of us experiencing the art we want to experience.
Yeah, fantastic. So we do, of course, recognise that here. It does feel, on a good day, that actually the kind of Renaissance spirit that has inspired both these auditoria here through the plays, but also in kind of Michael Boyd's vision for the main stage of having the audience incredibly close to the stage, even in a large theatre, is absolutely in line with that philosophy. But Amerah, I want to come to you. Do you recognise that sense of the audience wanting to be part of the experience and therefore being able to value a small, intimate experience like you described before as of equal weight with going to something that has been made, so to speak, by the establishment?
I think spoken word in itself, I stand on a stage and say I am vulnerable. I am given as part of what I had wrote to you, and I'm sharing it with you, and that automatically just breaks any barrier down, and we're all kind of on a level playing field. I completely agree with co-creation, and that is, as a young person, as somebody that works in a grassroots organisation, that's what it's all about for young people. Everybody wants to be a part of the process because they want to feel ownership and they want investment in the arts. A £32.50 play. You want to have investment in, you want to invest in the play, and not just as an audience member, I'm just going to watch what you guys created and then leave. It's how do you take it onwards and upwards? How am I going to speak to my peers and be like, you should go and check the rep out, you should go and check. And that's the best thing is word of mouth is one of, I know it's old-fashioned, but it's still one of the best things. We run an event completely, it's not on funding, nothing, it's completely voluntarily. Every first Thursday of the month, upstairs in a coffee shop, we run a spoken word night, and it's an open mic. Usually people start arriving at 5:30. Started off with members, an audience of 30 people. It now goes up to 150. They literally can't fit. They have to stand on the stage. It is a health and safety hazard now. But one, we don't want to move because the coffee shop it's in are absolutely fantastic, and it's independent. So young people want to invest in independence around the city. And two, because everybody's invested in this spoken word night. Anybody that wants to host could come up an hour before and say, I want to host today, and they'll host it. And it's how do you translate that and that 150 16 to 70-year-olds in one room, how do you translate that with 25 local talents that are absolutely brilliant on a larger scale and to be valued on larger scales? It's that opening the door for the kind of the spoken word, the hip-hop dance, everything that kind of expresses diversity, and I completely agree with what's wrong with the word diversity. How do you open the doors for that to be translated upwards so people actually can relate on a human level, not on a, you know, I'm watching this as a non-white and I relate to you because you're not, that's not, how do I relate to it as a human being and the experiences of the person?
The other thing I'm getting from all of you is this sense that, yes, absolutely, let's keep looking at how we can bring the kind of energy and the kind of talent onto our larger stages exhibition walls, but let's also value where it is happening and not suggest that because it's small or diverse or it's in one particular place that appeals to that place and that place's stories, that it isn't of equal value with our large stages, so to speak.
I think what's incredible is, and I don't know how it works in other cities, like you could, but in Birmingham, we love to disrupt spaces and places. So a lot of visual art is now in coffee shops, and it will just be in coffee shops, and they'll have the price, and completely it's gone to the next level of. I run a group of flash mobbers called Creative Superheroes who flash mob the Birmingham Rep, and yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So to take art and to kind of flash mob unusual spaces, there's an organisation called Beat Freaks in Birmingham who do incredible stuff, and what they're doing is they did a massive flash mob in Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery about the history of the exhibition that was there. So it's taking art is spoken word and dance and music and theatre. It's a medium, it's not a goal. I do not want to be a spoken word artist for the success. Spoken word happens to be the vehicle that I'm getting to understand and relate to people. And that's the way we've got to start seeing things, is it's the vehicle that's getting me to understand and meet people, rather than I'm just going to write this poem, perform it and become famous, or, and it's completely switching that. So
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's happening in other cities, but the disruption of places in Birmingham is absolutely incredible. Like, they take art and there's on buses, and we programmed some performances for Birmingham New Street. So we had this tiny box, and then you had to stand in the box, literally we're standing in this tiny box to perform. And I did a collaboration piece, and we went out, and everyone that was walking in New Street just happened to couldn't move. So they had to listen, and it's kind of telling people, I've got something to say, or I've got something to show, and you're going to see it because I value it.
Yeah, brilliant.